Biden has a problem. Last Tuesday's election in Virginia clearly sounded an alarm for Democrats, and a new CNN poll just out yesterday is likely only adding to Democrats' concerns. Here's what they see. 58% of Americans say President Joe Biden hasn't paid enough attention to the nation's most important problems. And overall, 48% of adults approve of the way that Biden is handling his job right now, while 52% disapprove. And the share saying that they strongly approve of Biden's performance has dropped to just 15%, down from 34% in April. It's a lot of numbers, but there's a lot in there. Yet still, some say this reality still hasn't set in for a lot of Democrats. Joining me right now is Doug Heye, Republican strategist, former communications director for the Republican National Committee, which you lean on in this piece that you wrote. And I'll read one line from it, Doug, for people. You write, "Many are missing the blindingly obvious forest while studying each individual leaf on each tree. President Biden is not popular." What is so obvious about it, and how does your time running comms for the RNC ahead of 2010 relate to all of this?
Sure. In 2010, Republicans were initially declared dead on arrival, sort of how they were after, the most recent elections, and slowly built their way back. We had governor's elections in Virginia and New Jersey that went better than expected. We had Scott Brown. But throughout the process, we were focused on one thing and one thing only, and that was Barack Obama's polling numbers. His magic number for us was 46. We felt that if he was at or below that, we'd take back the House. And ultimately, right before the elections, he was at 45, and we had a big election night. It's very easy to focus on all these other things. Think of how many conversations we've had on, say, critical race theory over the past month or so. But it all comes down to what the president's approval rating is, whether he's going to lift boats or sink boats. And Democrats are either going to sink or swim based on what Joe Biden's approval ratings are.
I want to ask you, staying in Virginia and focusing on the lesson there, one thing that Glenn Youngkin, the Republican now governor-elect, also did is keep Donald Trump at an arm's distance. And Maggie Haberman, she's reporting, though, that Trump delivered a clear message at a Republican congressional campaign dinner last night, saying that Youngkin would have lost without his support, saying that MAGA support is the only way to win. With that in mind, I want to play for you what a Youngkin campaign advisor said on CNN just today.
I think when Trump is relevant to people's lives, and when you have to weigh in on something that he has said, I mean, he's a major figure, then you do it. But I don't think that you take the bait and always talk about a former president when you're talking about your own candidacy. I mean, Glenn Youngkin wasn't a Trump Republican. He wasn't a Romney Republican. He was a Youngkin Republican. And people appreciated that. And that gave a hall pass to independents and to suburban people who had maybe voted for Biden, who had definitely voted for Terry before, to come over and then vote for Glenn.
Here's the thing, though, Doug. You have been very clear that you think Trump needs to be excised from this party. But that's not this. That's not what he's saying. So does this work for other Republicans other than Youngkin?
Well, I don't think we know yet. I think we'll have to see as Republicans continue to campaign. And I'd say running for governor is very different than running for Senate or for Congress. But clearly what Youngkin was trying to do, and was successful, was a camel walking through the eye of a needle. And it's a very difficult thing to do, especially when you have Donald Trump lobbing grenades all the time that everyone feels a need to respond to, that they were able to show restraint. And what a great job not just Youngkin did, but his team. Will is a real rock star and a rising star. What they were able to do was really difficult because every time Donald Trump says or does anything, everyone wants to respond or get a response.
But Republicans have real internal problems, too, right? The latest example is Fred Upton receiving threatening voicemails after his vote on the infrastructure bill, after he points to Marjorie Taylor Greene publishing his number, calling him a traitor for that vote. Let me play this voicemail that he gave to CNN.
Hope you die. Hope your family dies. Hope everybody your staff dies. You piece of shit. Traitor.
And then add to that, Paul Gosar tweeting out a photoshopped image video of him killing Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and attacking President Biden. I combine these two things because this kind of reaction is a problem for Republicans. It's a problem for leader Kevin McCarthy. But do you have any belief that he'll do anything to address any of this?
You know, I hope so. I don't know at this point. And I would say if I were speaking to him, Kevin, you need to do something here. Steve, you need to do something here because this hasn't happened in a vacuum. You've covered all these, Kate, when Gabby Giffords was shot, when the baseball practice for Republicans was interrupted by gunfire. Steve Scalise was shot, obviously January 6th. And what I worry about is if we don't condemn this, and that's Republican leadership and Democratic leadership, if we don't condemn this, if we don't censure Paul Gosar, then what we do is essentially we sacrifice whoever that next member of Congress who suffers violence may be. It may be a Democrat, it may be a Republican, we don't know, but somebody's going to get hurt again. And we see this not just here, but internationally as well, where there are assassinations
and Doug,
and
the question
attacks.
then becomes, I mean this, is that violence worth getting the majority back? Because that's what you weigh, it seems, sadly.
No, it's not. And that's where Republican leadership needs to step up here. We need to be able to condemn our members who say and do these kinds of terrible things that don't just put one or two members in Congress, but really every member of Congress in jeopardy.
It's good to see you, Doug. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up for us, Missing in America. The families of missing Black Americans say they are